Hi there. I want to take a second to chat with you about an absolutely delightful email I received yesterday. I am currently 0 for 4 offers for the last 5 days. I've made 4 different offers for 4 different clients, 3 different clients. And yesterday we were in the running for hours yesterday. And then we got the bad news that they'd taken another offer. Well, I was licking my wounds and feeling grouchy about it when I got the loveliest email from the listing agent. And it said, "Good afternoon, Ashley. On behalf of our sellers, we would like to thank you for submitting an offer on this property. We received 10 offers and several were tooth and nail. There was one, however, that stood out above the rest, and our sellers have decided to proceed with this one. We wish you and your buyers the best of luck in their home search. We know this is a very tough market for buyers and truly appreciate you taking the time to help them and for bringing forth such an incredibly generous offer. Thank you again so much for your time, consideration, and hard work on your client's behalf. If anything changes as we proceed, we will notify you immediately." And it struck me so much, I literally hollered for Jennifer and was like, "Listen to this." And it just put a nice end on my grouchiness. I was feeling disgruntled and grouchy and tired. I'd been up late writing that offer. And for them to recognize, hey, we really, really understand how tough this is right now. And we appreciate you. And we recognize how much hard work went into that. It really was very nice. It made me feel much better. And it made me look forward to working with those agents. If those are agents that are putting that much time and consideration into the people who didn't even win, then I can imagine they're probably very nice people to work with on the other side of the transaction. So I've decided I'm going to create something similar so that I can have that at the ready as a draft email or even perhaps as a template. I know obviously I would need to customize it depending on the occasion. I like that they customized this. Perhaps it was a draft email, but they made sure to include my name. They made sure to include how many offers they had. And they customized it to this particular scenario. And that's why it didn't look like a form letter coming to me afterwards. So that's why it meant so much to me. They took, 2 minutes and just made sure that email recognized that I had been working hard and I didn't win. So it was just a little breath of fresh air there. It's been real brutal out there for a while. And it was just very nice to have other agents say, "We see you, we see how hard you're working. We're so sorry this didn't work out." I liked it enough that I copied and pasted it into an email to my clients who were also licking their wounds that they hadn't gotten this house. We brought in a very, very strong offer and still didn't win. But I wanted them to see that there had been 10 offers and that it had been neck and neck for them. So anyway, something I'm going to be implementing into my business practices. I'm not obviously going to plagiarize it and copy it exactly, but I'm going to take the idea and I'm going to make it my own. So I just want y'all to know, 20 years in, I'm still adopting new things. I'm still fine tuning how I do my business. And you are never in it so long that you think you've gotten it all done and all done correctly. Yep. Okay.
I love the idea of that, Ashley, because we've all been there where it's been awkward. Okay, do I call the list or the buyer's agent that didn't get it? Do I send them an email? Do we text? So I think that's a really nice personal touch.
Yes. I mean, and I hear these stories from other agents who are frustrated because they didn't even know they didn't get it till it goes pending. And then they call the agent and the listing agent says, "Oh yeah, sorry, we took another offer." There is a way to provide a little respect and dignity to the entire process. And at a bare minimum, you should be notifying them in person via over the phone. You should be calling the other agents to say, "Hey, I am so sorry. The sellers have decided to go with another offer. But I am and this is how I've handled it for years. I am so appreciative of your time and energy. I know you guys worked hard on that offer. I could tell." Putting it in writing in an email and customizing it to the situation just takes it one step further. It's very classy. I was very impressed with it. And y'all know I've seen everything by this point. So it really struck me as something new and fresh I hadn't seen. And it's one of those things that as soon as you see it, you go, duh, why have I not been doing that? Why did I not think of that? So yes, Jennifer was just as impressed when I showed it to her. Now, this is an agent who is from Blacksburg. He's with the Blacksburg company, but is broadening his business here. And I don't know if that's something common up there or not, but I will happily adopt it and start doing it here. So I just wanted to bring that to you guys and let you know that that is what I saw. Okay, you guys ready to go on about the Tidewater initiative with the VA loan? I expect that y'all may have some questions about this, and I will answer them to the best of my ability or run and get you answers and then bring them back to you. So a few weeks ago, my appraisal was ordered for my clients who were doing a VA loan. And because they were doing a VA loan, it had to go to an appraiser who's qualified to do VA, Veterans Administration loan product appraisals. So I got a note maybe the next day from the lender saying that the appraiser had sent a message back through the portal system to the lender indicating that they were calling Tidewater. And that is the nickname for the Tidewater initiative. The Tidewater initiative means that the appraiser is concerned that the appraisal is going to come in below the purchase price. And the appraiser then stops everything they're doing and gives notice to the lender, and therefore the buyer's agent and the buyer, that they are nervous that they're not going to be able to meet that purchase price number. And they give an opportunity through the Tidewater initiative. They give an opportunity for the buyer's agent and or the lender to scour the internet, scour the tax records and the MLS to find comparatives that may support that purchase price. So what I like about it is before they just come back and say, sorry, the appraisal's low, they essentially reach out for support and help. And they say, help me justify this purchase price amount. Help me understand why this purchase price amount is fair market value and find me the comps that would support that. So when that happened a couple of weeks ago, I wanted to go over what my strategy was. And I mentioned this a little bit on a previous call, just about low appraisals in general. How do I combat those? How do I go look for comparatives that perhaps the appraiser missed? So what I did in this case a couple of weeks ago is I immediately went and checked the MLS. Of course, that's a no-brainer. We're going to go check the MLS. I'm going to stay within the same municipality. I'm going to try very hard. I'm not going to go out from Roanoke City to Roanoke County or vice versa, or Roanoke County to Salem, vice versa. I'm not going to do that, but I am going to look within that municipality, and I'm going to look for like properties a little better, a little worse, because appraisers have to bracket the subject property. They have to find some a little better, a little worse. Or I hesitate to use the word worse, a little more square footage, a little less square footage. And when I have those, I'm going to write them down, and I'm going to use some forms that the lender has sent me. The lender sent me a series of forms to fill out, and it has a spot for 3 comparatives. So what I was instructed to do was to go find comparatives that would support the purchase price on my purchaser's property that they were purchasing, and then to fill out these forms. And it looks like a CMA, y'all. It's how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, square footage, sale price, when was the sale, distance to the subject property. So it looks like a CMA. It was very easy to fill out. But my tips and tricks for you is don't stop with just the MLS. So what I did is I went onto the CRS tax data from our MLS, and I went into that municipality. I went onto the map. I went to the prospecting tool and used the map. So I went CRS tax data. I chose the prospecting tab, and I went into the map, and I asked it to show me all sold properties from the last year. And I looked in that area of the map that I thought would be within a few mile radius of my property, my subject property, the one my purchasers had under contract. And I looked for any sales, because there could have been a private sale. There could have been where, you know, some parents sold it to a son, or some cousins sold it to a distant cousin, or just two neighbors decided to sell a property amongst themselves, not involving real estate agents, not appearing on the MLS. For sale by owner sales are not going to show up on the MLS. So I went there to look for any, what I would call private sales. And when I did that, I was disappointed to find that there were not that many more, because there just isn't that much inventory to choose from. So if we've had restricted inventory, we're seeing that also in the sold inventory. So we're having trouble finding active inventory. There's also trouble finding sold inventory. And that was where this very, very experienced, seasoned appraiser was stubbing his toe, because there just weren't comps. So it wasn't that he was only finding really low ones or really high ones. We really were having trouble finding any. So the next thing I did is I went on the MLS and I looked in that area for pending sales. And I lucked upon one that had gone pending 4 days earlier with another broker here in town. I called that broker, who happened to also be the listing agent. I called the listing agent and I said, hey, I've got a low appraisal coming in. Your house up the street looks identical to mine. A couple of things different, but really, really in striking distance of what we need. I see it was listed for sale about $15,000 above my purchase price. Can you tell me, number one, when it's closing, and number two, if you got close to your listing price? And he was like, Ashley, it's going to close for full list price. It's going to close at the end of the month. Now, in my case, this was about a week too late for me, but it did give my buyers some options. My buyers could have opted to talk to the seller and us delay closing by a week and be able to use that comparative. It would have more than supported. It would have been $15,000 above the purchase price I had, and it would have really mirrored my property and been a really strong comp for me. Now, I found that by going to the pendings. Several years ago, not on a VA loan, our appraisal came in about $2,000 low, but I knew the property across the street was pending, and I called the listing agent and said, hey, when's this due to close? And she said, actually, it's closing tomorrow morning. I said, please, please, please. I know you have 10 days to mark it closed in the MLS. Would you please mark it closed tomorrow so that the appraiser can use the comp? And she was like, sure. And this is also why good karma, people, be nice to your fellow agents. Don't be a jerk when you don't get the deal. Okay. Make sure you're nice all the time. I'm not saying get walked all over, but put on your best, most polite hat all the time in real estate, because you never know when you're going to have to call a listing agent and say, hey, pretty please, will you put that closed property in the MLS tomorrow? If I'm nasty or I'm a rude person, they're going to wait until day 10 to put that puppy in, right? Because why are they going to do me any favors? So just a friendly reminder again, that you are in a business where your competitors are also your coworkers, right? It is a very strange industry we're in. So she marked it closed the next day, and the appraiser was able to use it. And he was certainly able to bump up actually, I think it was a female appraiser at the time. She was able to bump up that appraisal, the $2,000 we needed. And then my client was able to close and get her financing. Now, in the case of this one, we are still struggling. We've not been able to find comps to warrant that sale price. The sad part is the other broker told me this one's going to close with cash. So in 3 weeks, there's going to be a cash closing on this property up the street for $15,000 more than my house is trying to sell for. And it will become the new comp. It will become the new comparative. So there wouldn't be any problem had we gone under contract a little later, or this one had gone under contract a little earlier. But these cash sales are creating our new comps. So I may want to complain about these cash buyers. Where in the world did they all come from? And why are they all bidding on the house my buyers want? Why? Every time. But those cash sales are what are establishing our new comparatives. And those are going to be the comps that the appraisers will be using for the good and the bad. All right. Does anybody have any questions about the Tidewater initiative? It doesn't mean the appraiser is going to use your comparatives. It's an opportunity for the buyer's agent and or the lender to kind of throw their hat in the ring and say, let me try to help. Let me see what I can find. And then the appraiser is willing to look at that. It's a way for the appraiser to say, hey, I'm tag teaming y'all in, get in here and let's see if we can all brainstorm and find a comp that would fit this criteria. Anybody have any questions about that or ever experienced the Tidewater initiative? Okay, again, I don't want you to remember everything about it. I want you to go, oh, Tidewater. I remember Ashley saying something about that. And then you can call me and I can tell you about it. My brain's the only brain that has to remember absolutely every single thing. Y'all can just remember, hey, I think I know something about that. I know enough about that to get myself in trouble. Let me call Ashley. That's what I want you to do. Okay, so we're going to go to our next topic, which is always checking that the listing agent has received your offer. Remember me telling you the story of me submitting an offer and I didn't get it yesterday because another Wainwright agent got it. Yay, I am very happy for the Wainwright agent. We almost didn't get it because I didn't check to make sure they had received the offer. So I sent the offer about 10:30 at night, you know, as we do. I had finished showing it about 7:30, went home. It was the first time I'd ever written an offer for these clients. So I really made sure I went through every clause in that purchase agreement to make sure they truly understood what they were signing and that if they had any questions, I could answer them. The first go round with buyers writing a contract takes forever. After that, it can go much quicker. And so I just had to remind them, hey guys, it's not going to be like this every time. It's not going to be a 2-hour process every single time we write an offer. I promise you. This first time, I've got to get all the educational parts covered so that you know what you're signing. Fortunately, we use standard forms. So none of the standard language is going to be changing. What we put in the slots is going to be changing. So that's what we'll be focusing on our next offer. So I submitted the offer about 10:30 and I put, as I always do, a little line in there to say, hey, would you please acknowledge receipt of this offer? Well, I knew they were reviewing offers at 9 a.m. the next morning. So about 9:04, I was like, I still didn't get receipt. You know, I didn't want to be a jerk and like, you know, assume that he wakes up and is like, let me see if Ashley sent me anything. So I just sent him a quick text message and was like, hey, just wanted to confirm you received my offer last night. And I got a text message back a few minutes later that said, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you texted me. It had gone to my promotions folder and I didn't know I'd received it. Y'all, that would have been terrible, terrible. So please make sure, even if you say, hey, please acknowledge receipt of this offer, it's still your job to track down that listing agent and make sure they got it, okay? I try to live my life that I want to get what I want out of life, not sit on some moral high ground and be like, well, it's not my fault it went to his promotions folder. You know, great. That doesn't mean my offer's in front of that seller. So for me, I want to make sure the offer is in front of the seller, not feel like I can feel superior to this agent who doesn't know how to manage his email, right? I want to make sure I'm doing my full job for my client. So by just putting, please acknowledge receipt of this email, yes, I'm putting that in his court, but it's my job ultimately to make sure that offer gets in front of that agent. Okay. So that was a near miss. I was sweating. So I'm glad, still didn't get it, you know, c'est la vie. All right. Let's talk about interest rates jumping. So a lender I use frequently is also a friend. He and I have been friends for several years. And so I reached out to him after I saw the interest rate jump up to almost 6%. It went from like a Friday to a Monday. It jumped up like 1.5 points. That is a huge jump, y'all. And so I just called him and was like, hey, tell me about this interest rate jump. And he was like, oh my gosh, the entire weekend, all I've done is receive phone calls from buyers who are upset. And of course they're upset. It's not like he or I set the interest rate, of course, but it is upsetting. What does it mean that interest rates are jumping up to 6%? Well, we're gone from the days of having practically free money. You know, when I refinanced my house a year and a half ago, I got 2.5%, y'all. I am never refinancing this house as long as I live, because I will never see that type of interest rate again. It will never happen again. Now, part of why I got such a low interest rate is I went ahead and did a 15-year mortgage instead of a 30-year mortgage, and they'll give you slightly better interest rates for that. But I could do that. I could do a 15-year mortgage because of the interest rate. If my interest rate had still been 4.5%, I could not have afforded to do a 15-year mortgage. With the higher interest rates, that does mean that the monthly mortgage payment for the exact same house is going to be more money. So when interest rates are 2.5%, 3.5%, people can buy more house because they're basing it on what their monthly mortgage payment will be. If they can handle a $1,300 monthly mortgage payment, then they can afford to buy a more expensive house if the interest rate is lower. So how did we see that affecting us over the last 2 years? We saw that by people being willing to pay $30,000 and $40,000 above the listing price, because the expense of borrowing an extra $30,000 had a negligible effect on their monthly mortgage payment. Maybe their monthly mortgage payment was going to be $12 more a month, but they could afford to pay $30,000 or $40,000 over asking price for a house because that interest rate was so low. At 6%, I don't think they're going to be able to afford to do that. Donna's face is correct. Ooh, shoopy. 6% means I now can't afford as much house. I have to buy a less expensive house, or I can't be as cavalier with my offer and make these $20,000, $30,000 over asking offers. I'm going to have to watch my budget a little more carefully. Is that a bad thing? I mean, maybe if you had been trying for a year and a half to get a house and you've watched the interest rate climb while you make offer after offer after offer getting declined, it's a hard pill to swallow. That now not only are you fighting a tough market with low inventory and cash buyers squeezing you out, you now also are saying, okay, now my mortgage payment is going to be more if I want the same house I wanted last year, or I can't even get the house I wanted last year because I'm not going to be able to be competitive because I now have a 6% interest rate. So that, in my mind, is how we're going to shift the market a little bit. I'm hopeful that what this means is the frenzy will slow down a little bit. We still are going to have low inventory. Builders just physically can't build fast enough to relieve the low inventory that we have. But instead, this may cool the heels of some buyers who just now, they can't be, as I said, as cavalier with their offers. So I know that may bring up some questions, so I'm happy to answer those. What do you guys think is going to happen now that the interest rates are steadily moving up and are hopefully going to just stick around at 6% and not continue to climb? Anybody? I know this topic is a little more high level. You've got to understand like inventory and interest rates and private mortgage insurance and appraisals. I do understand. I mean, that's why y'all look to me to interpret that kind of stuff for you. I don't know. I don't know what the market's going to look like for the next 6 months. And
I'm fearful, Ashley, on this.
Yeah.
With the interest rates going up and the amount of house that they can afford is coming down because of the interest rate going up, it's, in my opinion, very possible that it's going to create a worse situation, because now the affordability of the home that they can get is now lower than what the average price of the house on the market today is.
Yep.
So it makes me a little nervous.
I agree.
I'm a little itchy over it.
And I've been saying for 6 months, like, where are people going to live when $1,000 is as much as they can pay in a month, or $800 is as much as they can pay in a month. I do see, I was saying this week to, we were just chatting in our little kitchen, y'all, we built that little kitchen so we could have our little coffee talks, and we were talking about it. And I was saying, if some of these more rural towns could put some money towards their infrastructure and get high-speed internet into their towns, I think they would see some housing booms there. And I think they would see people flocking to their county because they can afford way more house. And if they can work from home and they can have that high-speed internet, that's the only barrier. That's the infrastructure barrier that is keeping people from moving into the suburbs or moving into these more rural areas. There are some beautiful homes in some of those rural areas that could use some people to come in and bring them back to life, take them from vacant status and turn them back into an owner-occupied home. And that is going to be an option some people are willing to look at when they've gotten squeezed out of the more metropolitan areas, because the interest rate has now gone up and the demand for homes has gone up. And Jesse's asking, I do think the power of the first-time home buyer is going to decrease. Yes, some past clients asked me this week, like, you know, is everything just going to continue to climb? And they asked me this because I sold them a home in November for $230,000. Now their home did not have as many updates as the one that went on the market recently across the street. Didn't have as many updates and didn't have a basement. So the one that came on the market recently has a basement and has more updates. However, it sold for another $100,000. Y'all, I can't wrap my head around it. And these were my past clients saying, oh my gosh, did you see this? And I said, yeah, that's pretty incredible. And their question was, how are people going to be able to afford housing? And I was saying, I mean, unless employers across the board decided to start paying everybody an extra 15%, I don't know where they're really going. I don't know where this is going to go either. Jesse has said, I heard the term stagflation, which I think means things will stay inflated, but will eventually stagnate like a plateau. So still high, but not climbing as much. That is absolutely the only way it can go, right? I don't think it's going to go down. Like nobody's going to start. I don't think anybody's going to be underwater on these homes they're buying right now. I think they're going to, I think you're absolutely right. We're going to have to see a plateau. Otherwise, literally no one will ever be able to move again. You know, if you cannot bump up the next level, because the next level is another $100,000, people are not going to be able to move. So I think you're right. I hope, you never know you're at the peak until you're not at the peak anymore, right? But I'm hoping things will level off and plateau some, and that's a perfect term for it, is stagflation. Yeah. And what about forbearance type sales? So, you know, we were told in the media that, oh, you just wait, there's going to be foreclosures everywhere, you know, the rent moratorium and the mortgage, all of that's going to eventually create a bunch of foreclosures. I'm not seeing it. I don't know if it's coming or not. I think if it did come, if we did see a lot of foreclosures, I think they'd be snapped up by owner occupants in a second, because they just really, really need housing. So I don't think it would be the same as, you know, in the past when we had the short sale frenzy and there was 1 million short sales on the market after the refi boom, after the real estate market crash. Essentially, everybody got refied, but they didn't use their money to put into their home. They, you know, paid off credit card debt and they went on vacations and they, you know, they did whatever they wanted to do with their refi money. And then they ended up upside down on their house, and they ended up having to do these short sales where they were having to get permission from their mortgage company to sell their home for less money than they owed. And the mortgage company would have to agree to that. We had so many of those and we didn't have enough buyers for them. Conversely, now we have way too many buyers. So I think even if we did see some forbearance type sales, some foreclosures, they're just going to get gobbled up immediately by buyers. So, and Jesse's saying, I don't think foreclosures will be a huge thing because of all the cash buyers. Yeah. Where did all these cash buyers come from? 20 years. Where are all these cash buyers? They were certainly not, around for the last 20 years. Who knows? All right. Who has other questions? Oh, you think it's the baby boomers are leaving money to the millennials? I need to call my dad. All right. He's my baby boomer. Where's my $100,000 in cash to put as a down payment? All right, y'all.